Hello, welcome to Virtue L 2017. Virtue L 17 is our hashtag. I'm so proud of it and so appreciative of Ton Nguyen, who is my colleague on the other side of the world. And thank you so much, Ton, for putting on this Virtue L conference with me. I think it's going to be fabulous for people for years to come. On demand, PD. And so today, what my session is about, and thank you for joining me, is Kahoot for non-English speakers. I do a lot of Kahoot demos because I feel very strongly about the engagement and getting, not just using it as a review tool, but going deeper with Kahoot. And so I have other videos and things I show about how you can get a lot higher cognitively. Today we're going to talk about specifically if you have non-English speakers. You may teach a class like I do where everybody at the beginning of the year is a non-English speaker and I'm the ESL teacher, or you may be the math teacher and so you are looking for ways to engage these language learners in your content. Either way, I think you're going to get some benefit out of today. So let's look at where we are. To start your Kahoot, you would type in getkahoot.com as the teacher. And the students go to kahoot.it to play. But you create a free account. I'm not going to go over basics of Kahoot because it's very intuitive. So I'm just going to go right into a Kahoot that I created. Here's my dashboard. Here are my Kahoots. I'm not searching for one. And I will make this Kahoot available to you guys in the Virtue L participant notes. So if you would like to do this with your faculty, you're welcome to use this Kahoot. We're going to play it. You can just follow along and watch, but I will sign in as a student. So on my device, on my phone, I have gone to kahoot.it as my students have. And so, but I'm launching this game from here. As you can see, I have some options. Oh, and do go down and see all the cool things that Kahoot will do. It'll randomize the order of the questions, randomize order of answers, enable these answer streak so there's not just one kiddo on the leaderboard feeling, like he's making gains. I would encourage you to explore all of that. But let's get right into this Kahoot that I made for us. I went ahead and dropped a video in there while people are signing in. You just can, copy a YouTube share link, and Kahoot will put that as, while people are waiting. That's your background. 993233. Okay, so I am going to sign in just so that I have a player. I'm going to say my name is Carol Player instead of Carol Teacher. So pretend like I'm a student. There's Carol Player right there. So I'm going to play with one person, but I mean, there have been tons and tons of players before on some of these Kahoots. Okay, so this is only 6 questions. Let's see what we're doing. This one's about producing English in a low stress environment. So let's look at this first question. Non-English speakers can what? They can play a Kahoot, they can create a Kahoot, or they can not do too much when they first arrive. I'm talking about the first day of class. I'm going to go with create a Kahoot. And when I created this Kahoot, when I made this Kahoot as a teacher, I'm going to go to full screen to make sure that I see all the benefits. Did you notice that when I went to full screen, right here in this middle area, you don't really see anything right now. Sometimes you have to go to full screen to see this option. But first thing I'll point out is that I did make 2 answers correct, and you can do that. So that's kind of cool. But, well, nice because you might have more than one right answer when you're doing this with content. So let me look at right here. This is what happened in my class on day 1 of my last school year, and I had all non-English speakers, and I mean a few kids spoke a little bit of English, but every single student, even the ones that spoke no English, were able to help me create a Kahoot. The way we did this was that I created a Kahoot first. I'm going to back out of this so I can show you a picture of what I did with my class. I did this Kahoot first. It was a selfie about me. and it had about 10 questions in it. And they were, there's Miss Salva. How many children do you think I have? 2, 3, 46. What do you think? Now, a non-English speaker may not necessarily be a blank slate. In fact, most of the time, they can understand a little bit of English, especially when you're using visuals, slowing down your rate of speech, pointing to the words as you say them. So you can see that even if my kiddos guessed at this question, I'm going to pull that image back up and I'm going to go over this. How many children does Miss Salva, and I would point to myself at the front of the class, how many children, I might put my hand down and say, or point to my kids here. How many is that? Let's count that. 1, 2, 3. So Miss Salva has 3 children. So that was the correct answer. So this is the kind of thing that almost every teacher does. Not every teacher, but a lot of teachers like to have some kind of icebreaker, some kind of relationship builder. You want your students to get to know you. And so a selfie Kahoot about myself is what I do on the first day. And then I hand them one of these planning pages. And Kahoot provides these, which is just fantastic. You can go to Kahoot's website and there are so many so many resources. So I'll show you how to get that in just a second. But my kiddos, these are actual drawings from my students, and some of them write it in Arabic, and some of them write it in Spanish, and some of them write it in English, but everyone can draw. And then I can tell them, I've already modeled a Kahoot, and I tell them, I just want one from you so we can make a class selfie Kahoot. Now this is fabulous because they all play it. They get to know each other. Everybody's proud to see their picture up there. Sometimes I take an actual picture because their drawings are so good. But if I find something on the internet, or they might find a picture for me, these are fabulous because what has happened here is they started this on the first day of school and we played the Kahoot, and that was great. We even shared it out on Twitter and connected with classes around the United States and around the world who played our Kahoot. And that's even amazing too. But I turned this into a writing assignment about 3 things that they wanted to write an essay about. And so right there, they have 3 paragraphs, or the beginning of 3 paragraphs. It just turns into a writing assignment. But here's where you get these planning pages. I'm going to go out of Kahoot again. I'm going to go to Google and show you that how easy it is and how helpful Kahoot is to us. So just Google Kahoot PD resources. I think I've Googled planning pages, templates. It'll come up for any of that. Kahoot professional development and teacher resources. You will find it quickly. And there are videos, how Kahoot works. There's, if you want to give a Kahoot PD at your campus. But here's where I found the printable templates. You just click on that and it takes you to a Dropbox, and you can see that the planning templates it's right there for you. This is the part I generally use, is this part right here, where you print that out and have the kiddos come up with a question. Everybody can draw something, and then you tell them to circle the correct answer. What's cool about that is later we will do this with content, and they already understand about creating assessments. So I can't say enough about it. Here's another example of a gal. She used her translator. What she wanted to do, this was the next step. I said, now think about what you're learning in your content classes. What is a question that you would like to have answered? It's kind of the beginning of a research project if we want it to be. And this is how far she got. What is global warming? And her illustration was fabulous, but she didn't put it, a question here. So I had to go back and say, that's great. You just need to answer this. And then we need 2 more questions, because I was asking them for 3 planning pages as we started our research project. So I am thrilled with this part of it. Let's go back to our Kahoot that we are playing. So yeah, I would say non-English speakers can play Kahoots, and they can create Kahoots. Absolutely. They can guess at them if it's the first day. But if you go back and pull up that image, these are visuals, And these are very important for non-English speakers to become English speakers. So let's just move on to the next question. Oh, good, I'm winning. Okay, many English learners, or ELs, want what? What do you think? They want more homework? They want to be laughed at? They want to practice their pronunciation? Or they want to drive their teachers crazy? I'm going to go with practice their pronunciation. Because these are my students right here. These are my fabulous, fantastic students from this year. I'm going to quote some research by Dr. Michelle Izquierdo, who works with me at Sidelets Education. And she did a research, she's done a lot of research on non-English speakers and newcomers. And I mean, it's just overwhelming when you interview the students and what they care about. We can have and research all the theories about acquiring a second language, but it seems to me, and ask your EL students, it seems to be what they care about the most, or at least the students that I've run into, is their pronunciation and how they sound. Stephen Krashen has a theory about the affective filter, and that not a lot of learning happens when you don't feel comfortable, when you feel insecure, when you don't feel confident, or when you feel badly about yourself for whatever reason. And my students express this. They don't practice their English very much when they don't feel good about how they sound. So there's a lot of things we do. We use Kahoot to choral read. Before we go to this next question, I would say, okay, guys, that's great. Now let's read this before we move on. Many ELs want to practice their pronunciation. Everybody, that's what it sounds like on 2, 1, 2. And then they all read it with me. And their affective filter is low. Their stress is low because it's like in church. Everybody's talking at the same time. Everybody's singing the song at the same time. Nobody can tell if you don't know all the words or if you're not saying them correctly. And again, Krashen talks about how really they don't need to produce the language to acquire the language. They need comprehensible input more than anything. But in a roundabout way, this helps very much because they tell me they feel more confident if they have opportunities to practice. So if it makes them feel more confident and my students are more engaged and they're more plugged in, then I want to do as much of that as possible. And then for the comprehensible input part, I am, to make my message understandable to a non-English speaker, again, I'm going to pull the image up before I go to the next question. So what I'm doing for non-English speakers with my Kahoots is I am not reviewing with them. I am. Of course, I'm going to do that. Anytime I have a test, we're going to review with a Kahoot. It's just too much fun, and it's a fantastic tool to review. But I use it all the time to build language and to introduce concepts because I have them. They're so engaged. They all love Kahoot. I have an opportunity to pull up a visual here and talk about it. And before I move on to the next question. So it's like an interactive PowerPoint for non-English speakers, and it's super supported. So, okay, I'm still winning. All right, here's the third question. Robert Marzano tells us that something equals a 19-point percentile gain in achievement. And Marzano is the guru of building academic vocabulary. He's not even talking about newcomers here. He's talking about just your average learner. Oh, I got that one wrong. I bet I'm still winning. But, right, so student discussions is what Marzano tells us equals a 19-point percentile gain in achievement. A couple of things I want to say about this. If you have non-English speakers in your classroom, again, please remember that does not mean that they are non-English listeners. It's very hard for somebody not to understand anything for very long if you are using visuals and gestures and pointing and you know, that's supportive and people start to understand the language. So what Robert Marzano tells us is that properly supported student discussions equal achievement, a measurable gain in achievement. And if that's true for the average learner, I want to make sure my non-English speakers are in that, even if they're just listening until they feel more comfortable. I want my classroom to look like this. And in fact, this is my classroom. This is my classroom just a month or so in. All these kids are from different countries, and they speak different, they're going at different rates. But these two children right here do not speak the same language. I purposely sometimes put them, all these guys back here do speak Spanish. So I'm being thoughtful about how I group students, but I know that those student conversations are what make them think, not just me talking at them. And so I want that as soon as possible. I want my non-English speakers to be listening. I want images and visuals so that they are able to do that. So we start Kahoots to build background, to give them an idea of what this is going to be about. That's good for every single student. And then to have them in the middle and of students who are speaking about the content, this is very supportive to non-English speakers. Again, because they understand more than they can express a lot of the time. All right, this one's in Swahili, so I'm going to see if you can figure it out. Dunya, and I would point to this right here. This is Dunya, and I don't even want to try to pronounce this. Dunya, Media, Dunya, Toka. Now I'm embarrassing myself. This is Joa, right here. Okay, so I know that was difficult. It's not in our language. Or maybe you do speak Swahili. That'd be great. But if you don't speak Swahili and you guessed at it because you're a non-Swahili speaker, when your teacher pulls this image back up and points to this blue and green planet and says Dunya, and then they point 1, 2, 3 fingers, maybe your teacher shows you 1, 2, 3, or maybe she points at Dunya and points to her chest and points to the ground and is signaling to you, this is Earth, is the 1, 2, 3 from this big yellow thing. There's comprehension there, no matter what language you speak. This visual and those gestures, again, I would say, Dunya is the 1, 2, 3 from this thing, the sun. I mean, that's the power. The power of visuals is so important. You could sit in that science classroom, and because you have some knowledge of the solar system, of a planet, of what the sun looks like, that's comprehensible input. And so Kahoot is fabulous, again, because we're able to pull that image back up and teach with this. And our non-English speakers can get comprehension from that. Okay, let's see if we can watch this clip and then you choose a statement.
First of all, I began to read many books, and I practiced my English with my friends and with my family, with the teachers, and that's so important. You don't have to be scared. You only have to do it. You only have to do it. So I began to study, and I began to do.
Son proved a lot of things to my class. I met him a couple of years ago, and we found out that he actually had, when I filmed this of him, when I came to his campus and filmed this, he had only been learning English for 7 months, and he was in this country without his parents, and a low socioeconomic area of town where most of the kids in his class and most of the kids in his school and in our neighborhood, he lives close to me, we speak Spanish. And so, if he didn't want to learn English, he didn't really have to learn English. And so it was inspiring that he was so motivated to learn English. So those two statements, he just learned for 7 months, is a little surprising. Was just learning for 7 months is a little surprising. And also that motivation can accelerate your L2 or your second language acquisition. I think everybody would probably agree with that, because the more you're motivated to learn anything, the faster it will come. And what this student taught me is that as much as anything, I need to motivate my kids and for them to understand what's possible. Because if you believe, like he says, if you believe it, then you are more motivated to work toward that goal. So I start my school year showing this student, and you know, everything starts going in that direction, that they believe that they can do it. They see a kid like themselves that can do it, and then they start to get successes. And so I wanted to show you guys that you can embed video into your Kahoots like that. And also these 2 points right here. And that video is also available on my website, and I'll have that in the show notes as well, because that kiddo, Hersan, helped me turn a bunch of other students into kiddos just like him. And now I have other videos of students who would like to make a video to inspire other kids. So this is a wonderful thing. All right, here we go. Here's the last one. Why should those kiddos, you know, we did a selfie Kahoot. Why should we start doing that with content, with math or with science or with history? I keep forgetting that I'm playing. Let me choose one. Yay, I'm right. It might save me some time. Not really. The reason is because, let's go back to the image, and I'm modeling how I teach with Kahoots here. Right there you can see that creating is the new highest level now that they've redone. This is the 21st century Bloom's taxonomy. And if you think about it, if I had a group of students create an assessment, created a Kahoot about the Civil War, and they have to go, heck, I can even give them the right answers. Come up with some questions. I'll tell you what the right answers are. But you kids have to come up with distractors. Once they have to come up with distractors, that's so difficult, or at least analytical, for them to figure out. And then they're thinking like test makers, which helps them and gives them some test taking strategies. But it's also it's a very high cognitive skill to create something like that. And the remember part, the recalling of those facts and understanding them, that lowest level, that's going to just happen because it took them a while to create, to evaluate what answers were best, to analyze some information, to create these questions and answers. You know, you want to start with creating, and then they will end up understanding and remembering your content. So see how we can help kiddos do that. And it's just amazing to me that Kahoot allows us to do that. And kids love Kahoot. There were only 6 countries in the world last year that did not play a Kahoot. And for good reason. It is super engaging and super fun. And there are a lot of other things on my website about how to use it. But these are my top ones for non-English speakers. I'm really proud of my kids and how fast they gain English. But they're doing the work. These platforms, partners like Kahoot, are what's helping me guide them. But they're doing all the work. So let's see who won. Yeah, it was me. So thank you very much for participating in this Virtue L conference. I want to make sure you guys have, I'll go ahead and give you my website. I know this will be in the notes, but if you go to bit.ly, bit.ly, Salva blog, the capital S, capital O, capital G, you will see that if you are interested in other things for newcomers, I have a whole website, a whole blog about newcomers at grade level. And so I would really welcome you. Here's videos right here. If you want any of the videos that I use, you're welcome to use in your ESL classroom or in your math classroom or science classroom. I have how to get ready for next school year here. Just 6 action items that will just up your game even more of what you're doing with your students. We did just write this book, Boosting Achievement, and that's for, reaching kiddos with minimal education. but school districts are buying it because it's just a great read for all teachers to realize if these students with minimal education can close their gaps and learn English quickly, what does that mean for everybody? So I'm honored that Tan Nguyen, who is my co-founder of Virtuelle 17, that he wrote the foreword for this book. And it's the most touching, moving, real, true account of what he and his family went through when they left their country in a time of war. So I'm just super appreciative to Tan for that. One more quick thing is that the resources that I used for this are, I know I mentioned Robert Marzano a bunch of times, and this is his book, Building Academic Vocabulary. This is where we get a lot of, and this is not necessarily an ESL book at all. This is just how to build academic vocabulary for any student. There's a ton of research in here and great ideas. I use a Seidlitz book, 38 Great Academic Language Builders, and a ton of things I'm able to do in the classroom where I get kiddos together to do these activities because we have built background knowledge and with Kahoot, and we have lowered the affective filter, and so they're comfortable doing these things. And of course, I told you about the Building Achievement book. If you have newcomers or especially underschooled kiddos with minimal education, this book can help you close gaps and help them close gaps very quickly. I want to show you what I have on the screen right now are just some notes of some key points that we went over. So number one is to make sure that we have students thinking critically. That's the goal. Speaking in authentic conversations. I get some criticism about Kahoot and just choral reading. That's not the goal. The goal isn't just choral reading all the time. It's having them comfortable so that they can start having authentic conversations as soon as possible. Number two is, again, what we said, Dr. Marzano's research. Everybody should be engaged in properly supported student discussions for multiple reasons. Every student should be doing that. Three is just teach with Kahoot. Don't just review with it. And then number four, remember that creating those Kahoots is very high cognitively for them. So 5, go ahead and make a selfie Kahoot at the beginning of the school year or any point in the school year so that your students know more about you, and then they can turn around and start making those about themselves. And then consider sharing those with the world. I'm going to show you a couple of people that jumped in on that. Emily Francis, here is her Twitter page. She's at Emily Francis, Emily Fran ESL. She has engaged with us quite a bit. She's coming down to Texas for the TESOL State Conference to share some of this. Also, and Emily is in North Carolina, and her students are corresponding with my students after we made Kahoots for each other. And then Katie De Gregorio is in Long Island, and here is an example of a Kahoot that she made for us. So we learned all about New York and Long Island because her students played our Kahoot, and then they sent us this Kahoot for us. My kids loved it. The year before, Natalie Krayenvenger, and she is also a Kahoot ambassador with me, and she is fabulous, and her students are fabulous, and we traded a holiday traditions Kahoot with them. So definitely consider that, because these are ways to break down the walls of your classroom and have your newcomers be experts for other students. So there's so many positive outcomes of that. I didn't mention it enough, but text TESOL for follow this hashtag, and that is our state conference in fall of 2017. These gals that I just mentioned, Emily Francis and Katie, are coming to Texas to help me present on ways to connect your classrooms like this. So that's it. Number 7, all the positive outcomes that we were just talking about. Boosting self-esteem, authentic writing opportunities. We started writing back and forth, very engaging writing when you connect with the class outside of your space. Global learning, cultural diversity, so much more. So just give it a try. Reach out to me if you have any questions, and I will have my blog notes in the notes for today. And to everybody who is plugging into Virtuelle 17, props, thank you, shout out to all the presenters. And yes, reach out if you need anything, and let's just keep being innovative about how we do staff development. Thanks. Bye.